Pins and needles.
I could play the Jeopardy song.
So let me know when it's ready. Well, thank you. Want to welcome everybody to the August 16th, 2022 Finance Administration Committee. And this is, we'll start off with the roll call, please.
Ruth Causey. Here. Chaz Jones.
Present.
David Lowe.
Present. Present. And let's just have an approval of our minutes.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of July 19th.
Second.
Okay. Anybody want to talk about them? No. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. All righty. So we got that business out of the way. For the folks that are viewing this remotely, so introduce the other folks that are here in the room. So the committee is comprised of Mayor Jones, Councillor Causey, myself, David Lowe. We have Mike Wazowski, the finance director, present, and Ruth Post is our recorder. We also have a number of folks in the room who are here to give some presentations. The purpose of this particular meeting is to hear from representatives of social service agencies that the city has historically provided some support for. And we're going to be hearing from those folks in just a minute or so. Just some background, the city receives money from the state of Oregon for tax revenue and other things. And it's been a policy of the council to award 35% of that to local agencies that serve Philomon citizens and surrounding areas. We feel this is a very good thing to do because as a small city, the city itself cannot offer all of the services to the community, but the organizations that are here today do that in some way and form. And so we feel it's a good way to benefit the citizens. Okay, we also, rather than name everybody that's in the room, and I may not know everybody by name, I'm going to be inviting them up to for a little presentation. We do have presentations or hard copy of information submitted already, so we've had a chance to look it over. But we would like to hear from you directly to understand from your own words how you benefit Philomon citizens. We will go alphabetically according to a list that I have. I think we have 9 people here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 9. Pardon? Right. We actually have 2 things. We're doing a social service agency funding request first, and then these are utility assistance in the back. So we'll take care of the social service agency request first. I'm asking Councillor Causey to give you a 3-minute opportunity to talk or speak. Maybe after 2 minutes, you'll rattle cage.
30-second warning.
30-second warning. That sounds fair. And then we might have some questions for you too. So we just want to make this kind of efficient. So any questions from down? Okay. So we have ABC House. It's first on our list, Glenda Lundstrom. Yeah.
Hi, would you like me to step forward or?
Yes, Glenda, would you please? Next to
Here?
record it. Yes, please. And this is Glenda Lundstrom from the ABC House.
So thank you for the opportunity for this presentation today. ABC House is a children's advocacy center dedicated to providing child abuse assessment and support services for children who are referred to us for concerns of abuse or neglect. ABC House originated in 1997. Over the last 25 years, we have served more than 12,000 children. Our team of child abuse professionals and experts provide specialized care for children, more than 700 a year, and that is infants, children, and youth. We have seen a greater demand over the last 2 years for our services. And last year, ABC House served 771 children, and that is with abuse assessments and related services. Of those 771 children, 79 were from Benton County, 22 were from Philomon. We anticipate serving nearly the same number this year. We expect another spike in referrals this fall when children are back in school and they are back in front of teachers and other school personnel who are mandatory reporters and who know the signs of child abuse. Our services are comprised of 3 parts: the child abuse assessment, that's medical exams, forensic interviews, and family support and referral services. Our team is highly trained in providing those services, and even our medical providers are well known throughout the state and beyond for their expertise. We greatly appreciate this opportunity to present today, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, do we have questions?
Thank you, Glenda. Can you just tell me who primarily refers your clients to you?
We get, you have to be referred to ABC House, and we have 3 referral sources: law enforcement, the medical community, and DHS. You cannot self-refer to ABC House, except for our counseling services. You can for that, but not for assessment services.
I believe many organizations like yours saw a drop off in activity during the pandemic.
At the beginning of the pandemic, yes. Some theories that we have now are that children weren't able to access services at the beginning of the pandemic. And some think that that has resulted in the increase in demand this year and last year. We anticipate still a high demand coming in the fall. So I think we'll see.
Thank you.
And when you say that there's 771 that have been served, do you go by, and you identify the communities, do you go by the residential address that those people are from, or school district that they might be in?
Zip code, usually.
Zip code.
We aren't always able to identify exactly where a child resides. Once they're in the custody of the state, it's automatically the DHS office in Corvallis or Albany.
Okay. And then so identifying the number from Philomon itself, how do you do that? Because the zip code is kind of large.
Well, we keep track. We keep track of every child who comes in, and where we can get information, we log it. And so we pull that every quarter.
Okay.
This year, we are ahead of last year. We are at 449 so far this year.
Okay.
That was as of June.
Okay.
I believe you mentioned that in some cases you don't have access to address information.
Yes.
So that number is probably higher than.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
I also wanted to share, we're seeing an increase in cases related to drug use or exposure. We recently had a 14-year-old girl who came in for an assessment appointment. It turned out her mother had trafficked her in exchange for drug access. Of course, the girl got hooked on drugs herself. She ended up in a situation where she was providing sexual favors in exchange for drugs. She came to us for an assessment appointment, and she had a lot of concerns about her health and well-being, which we addressed, and she is now in the treatment center. So support from you will help children like her.
And you said that law enforcement does referrals
Yes,
to you. So our Philomath Police Department then been,
absolutely. We work a lot with Benton County Sheriffs as well.
we good? All right, well, thank you so much for,
Okay.
Glenda, for presenting to us, and
Okay, absolutely. Thank you for your questions.
yes, thank you. And you're welcome to stay. What we'll do is we'll be having the presentations for everybody, and then we'll be doing our deliberations on our sheet here.
Okay.
Thank you. Daniel Sider from Bentham Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah, Sitter, thank you.
Sitter, sorry, Daniel.
No worries. Nice to see everybody. Thank you for inviting us. I'm Daniel Sitter, the Development Director over at Bentham Habitat for Humanity. Our request is pretty straightforward. So we're building a home here in Philomon. And to build our homes, we have to pay $28,000, $207 towards system development charges to the city of Philomon. These are charges that are going directly to our homeowners. These are things that we're paying for to cover. So we hold our mortgages internally. So these are funds that we have to raise through private donations or through restore funds to offset those costs. You all have been very gracious to help us defer some of those costs, but when we defer those, we are having interest cover those, which increases the amount. So our ask is to help cover the SDC charges so that these homes can remain affordable. The SDC charges are 14% of the total budget for the home, which is significant. When we have 5 homes, that really adds up. So, you know, these homes are part of our community land trust. So for the next 99 years, these homes will be home to hardworking, low-income families here in Philomon. So folks that live there now or will be living there, when they sell it, they'll be going to income-qualified families. The sale price that we determine now, which is based off their income and our expenses, will set the formula for the future families going forward. So this is really important for us to, keep our costs down and keep it affordable for our homeowners.
Thank you. I know in the presentation, you referred to one house that's being built. Are there others that you're planning to do in Philomon? And this request is just for the one.
It's
is that
for
right?
one home, yeah. So we would love for future support to help cover those other SDC costs, of course. But yeah, this is for one home that we're actively working on. Yeah.
Is this, I know you're building a home for which there is a disabled child living there. Is that this home I'm thinking of?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you describe the demographics of the existing home owners? And I guess you already know the families that are going to be in the next home.
Yeah.
And also like the number of kids per home and that.
Yeah, so at the development, we have 2 homes that are already completed. There is the Nunez family and the Garibay family. Those families, so the Nunez family has 3 children, I believe. No, I'm sorry, 4 children. And then the Garibay family has 7 children, I believe. So there's a lot of kids that will be living, or there are currently a lot of kids that are living at that development. And then, yes, for the next home, it's a single mother with her adult disabled son that she's a caregiver for. So it'll be an accessible home. Yeah.
That's why we need those sidewalks.
So we need sidewalks.
Sidewalks go a long way.
And how many homes again do you have in Philomon? Right now?
Total,
Mhm.
so total, I think we're up to 14 homes.
Okay.
And then we have 3 more to be completed, and actually 4 once the house is renovated. The current home that's on the site will be renovated and sold, so.
Right. All right.
I have a question for our finance director. Would you prefer that I hold that until later?
If it pertains to the presentation, feel free.
Well, my question is that if we were to waive all or a portion of the SDC fees, it's actually, I don't see it as a contribution, but as revenue.
Yeah, I'll be putting the expense in this account and moving the revenue over to the SDC account. So, yeah, because that's what we put it over in the SDC area, because that's revenue to the SDC. And that's for future.
And could you tell me what the projected SPC income is for the
No,
county?
not off the top of my head. You want me to go look
Isn't
it up?
that your budget?
No, I did not bring my budget. I can look it up. You want me to look it up, Ruth?
Why don't, if you don't mind, Councilor Kazi, why don't we get through the other presentations and we get into deliberations, we can maybe get into that level, if that's okay.
Certainly.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Daniel, very much. We have Dementia Warriors, Chuck, Stevie, and Holly
She's not here, just me.
Okay,
Okay,
Chuck Stevie.
Not a flyer.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm here representing the Dementia Warriors, which is a support group for people with dementia. Just a little about me. I was born in Dallas, raised in Falmouth. Went to school here. Both me and my wife graduated from Falmouth. Raised 2 kids here that graduated. I got 6 grandkids. 2 of them graduated from Falmouth, and I got 12 great grandkids right now, and 13 in December. So I'm a longtime Falmouth person and no plan on going anywhere. The Dementia Warriors support group was started by a guy by the name of Jerry Wiley, who has vascular and Lewy body dementia. He started with his wife 5 years ago. He still is our leader today. We're sponsored by Peace Lutheran Church, and so we meet in their social hall. If you notice on our application, we don't have all the documents that was asked for because we are not a 501(c) ourselves, but any donations go through Peace Lutheran Church, and so we kind of use their board. We have a 5-member committee that decides where we're going to spend our money and everything. We do not have any expenses or income because we didn't have any money until this year. So we don't have that, but any donations that do come in from other organizations or individuals, they all go through Peace Lutheran Church and they handle all our finances. We do keep track of what we're spending this year so we can do a budgeting for next year based on what we have actually used that money for this year. Any money that is taken in to our support group is none of it is used for fun activities because we take field trips to different places around the valley. The furthest we've ever went is Tillamook Cheese Factory and the Air Museum up there. For that particular one, we rented a van, so the group paid for it, mainly because we didn't want to have 6 older people driving that far. So we rented a van and we had 17 people go on that trip. Our goal is to keep the members physically and socially active and to educate and support the families. By keeping them physically and socially active, since we do not have a senior center in Falmouth, we're kind of
30 seconds.
okay. So we kind of doing that little nick there. Today we have over 50 members, 25 to 30 actively at each meeting. We're a peer-to-peer support group that we want the whole family to come and learn about dementia. We meet twice a month, but twice a week, weather permitting. We did the Alzheimer's walk last year, had these shirts that were donated to us along with hats. Our funding is needed for the groceries, for freezer meals that we provide to people, for food containers, education materials, durable goods, and respite care. So that's basically it.
Thank you. Thank you. So in terms of eligibility, are there any requirements other than the disease itself, dementia, the need for that kind of care? Is there any other? And I ask that because it is a faith-based group that is sponsoring you, and it's their 501(c)(3). But I would imagine that anybody in the community that has that condition, no matter what their
Yes, and
situation
they
is.
don't, yeah, we're a group for that condition, but we would like other people, if somebody deceased in our group, we still want those people to be here because they've been through the whole gamut of things. And we need people that may not have the dementia, but can actively help us because, you know, myself, my wife has Alzheimer's for 8 years and is totally blind. So, you know, I can only do so much. So we need a person that maybe doesn't have a dementia partner that can help us out. So yeah, we take any help we can.
Just a technical question. You mentioned light therapy equipment. Are those the lights that sort of imitate daylight?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like a bicycle helmet that you actually wear twice a day with red lights on it. It's supposed to stimulate the brain and make it more active to help you think better. And they're $1,400 a piece. And we don't supply that to the person. We buy one at a time and we let them try it because who wants to invest $1,400 to see if it's going to work or not? So we buy one, we let them try it. If it works for them, then we let them, well, we have them pay half of it and we pay the other half. So they have an investment in it and so do we. If they buy it, then we buy another one so people can try it. So.
Thank you, Chuck, and appreciate your presentation. I know we chatted before, but I'm curious about, you provide wraparound services for the entire family, right?
Mhm.
Not just the person who's experiencing the disease, but it's for the family of, trying to support network for those as well. Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Well, we support the whole family with the education part of it and you know, if the person that's taking care of the dementia partner, if they need help, then we try to find somebody that can fill in for them for a day or a weekend if need be. But most people, myself included, you know, I don't want to leave my wife for a weekend because you just worry about it, depending on who's taking care of her. But so we are for the whole family. Usually the people that are going on our field trips and attending the meetings though, is the dementia patient and the caregiver themselves.
And just one quick follow-up. So you say it was created about 5 years ago. How many folks are you working with now in the group?
We have over 50 for a membership, but 25 to 30 actively attend the meetings. You know, since it is older people, they, you know, have doctor's appointments and, you know, and with a dementia patient, I mean, some days you wake up and, you know, you're not doing nothing that day. So, you know, that's why, you know, not everybody participates in it.
Well, thank you, Chuck,
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you.
Okay, Maxtivity, Louise, Annette, Burgess.
So I'm Sophie Grow. I'm going to be representing Maxtivity.
Okay, thanks, so.
Can I hand out a slide as well?
Of course.
This is just a brief list of some of the programs that we're offering. Yeah.
Shoot.
And then, can you?
Thank you.
Ready when you are.
Okay.
My name is Sophie Grow. I'm so happy to be here with you. I guess in person is a kind of a new feeling. It's exciting because it brings an energy to a lot of the work that I'm really passionate about here in Philomon. I've lived in the Philomon area for 10 years. And I've worked at Maxtivity for 1 year and volunteered there for 3. We were founded in 2018 by founder Lori Paul with this vision that we kind of crowdsourced from community members, the volunteer hours and the supplies to create a well-equipped space for anyone of any age, but in particular youth, to have access to ways of being creative. It's a place that has grown over time. We have a new executive director, and we've had most of our span during COVID. So we've had a lot of times that we've had to pivot and be really innovative. And so I believe that we're here to present what we've had going on in the last year, particularly for youth, because we believe that a community-based organization like ours with trained and skilled staff, where we're expecting mandatory reporting, we're training people about equity and inclusion, we're also including trauma-informed training, that we're actually a place that can prevent abuse in the community, that we're a place that creates a safe space for underserved community groups. And we've seen those numbers grow, and especially in Philomon. For our summer programs, we have participants who are repeating at a 40% rate. So that means that 60% people are new to our programs. And of all of those, 45% are rural Philomon families. And we're seeing a huge uptick when we are providing scholarships for rural families to join in. When we were not able to provide those scholarships in 2019, many of the families were from Corvallis and outlying areas. But when we provided scholarships last year, upwards of 3,900, and this year, over 5,000, to make sure that kids, no matter what their income, what their family situation was, that they could come to camps. We're asking for support during the school year because we find that after-school programming is an essential part of creating a resilient community. We like to think of Maxtivity as kind of a living room space, a place to come for parents to chill out while their kids are, supervised by our staff, and they have access to all the tools.
30 seconds.
Thank you. So we provide snack, and we provide classes and clubs in fine arts, STEM, pottery, and ceramics, and in arts and crafts. But it's really youth driven. So if the kids tell us that they want to do something, we follow what they do. We've served over 200 families just this year in our camps, and more than that in our classes and school programs.
So you said you're looking for an after-school sort of support. So would this be then for kids that for somewhere to go after the classes are let out, and they can go and work with art projects and different things? Okay.
Yeah, we have an existing after-school program that was run in 2020 to 2021, and then 21 to 22. But we really saw an uptick last year, and a real need for snack and for supporting them after school. And then a lot of them are from Philomon. They walk right over after school.
Is this your only location, or do you have a location in Corvallis?
We are only located in Philomon. We really try to keep it hyper local, but we do partner with the Benton County Historical Society and Museum, and we've partnered with PYAC and Philomon City Parks to go to the parks. So we try to meet people where they're at in the community, but we try to stay pretty hyper.
Yeah, so you must see some children who come back every day.
Oh yeah, we have some, they're the leaders. They help us decide what our programs are gonna look like. So you look at the list of camps this summer, it was because little Lorelei, who's, one of the kids there, was making dioramas every day. So we did a diorama camp.
Thank you very much, Sophie. And can you just tell me how you select the children or the families who receive scholarships, and what are the estimated number of children and days that you would provide service for the requested dollar amount that you submitted?
For the requested dollar amount submitted, I actually don't have that information in front of me because Louisa asked me to speak, but I didn't write the grant funding because we split duties as a small nonprofit. What I can say is that we actually look at, we don't require that somebody has a certain income level alone. We actually do want families to tell us if they can only pay partial, or if they can only can do it some months and not others, because we know what it's like for families right now. We know that without the child tax credit that people were getting last summer, that is a lot harder to provide those enriching programs. So we open it up, we prioritize historically underserved groups like LGBTQIA, communities of color, Indigenous, Native American, Hispanic, Latino, Indigenous. So we prioritize those groups. We also try to provide rural families with the support that they need. So rural families is a huge priority group for us. Yeah, and I wish I could give you a little bit more about that, but I would say I would love to provide that information.
How much does how much do you charge this family for after school care?
Historically low. Right now, it is $60 a month for kids to come after school, and that's for a family. And that's 3 days a week. Any other questions?
Great. No,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you so much for holding this.
It's on. If I didn't turn
Turn
anything
things
off,
off, maybe.
I don't know, David.
Uh-oh. Okay, Meals on Wheels, Christy Fitch. We have Christy here.
Christine's online.
Hi, Christy. You're on. Nice.
Hi, well, thank you guys so much for having Meals come to present today. I'm with Meals on Wheels of Lynn, Benton, and Lincoln counties. We're part of the Oregon Cascades West Council of Governments, which manages a variety of local, state, and federal programs that serve the residents, local governments, and businesses in Lynn, Benton, and Lincoln counties. Meals on Wheels provides congregant or community in-person dining as well as home delivered meals. It helps seniors deal with food insecurities, malnutrition, social isolation, and/or loneliness. We also provide a social connection and safety check with the home delivered meals. It allows seniors to remain independent, healthy, and in their home for as long as possible. Our clients, we do not have a waiting list for the clients that we serve, but to be eligible to receive meals, they need to be 60 or older. If they're under 60 years of age and disabled and on Medicaid, we can serve them. Native Americans and Alaskans that are 55 or older can also receive meals. Our volunteers that serve at our meal sites are also eligible for a meal. And then we also assist seniors who may be recently discharged from hospitals or rehabilitation facilities who may just need some short-term meals while they get back on their feet. And we have 11 meal sites in Lynn, Benton, and Lincoln counties. They're staffed by a meal site manager that is employed by the Oregon Cascades West Council of Governments. And then we have volunteers that serve in the kitchen to package the meals as well as deliver the meals to the seniors in the communities that we serve. Last fiscal year that just ended June 30th, 2022, we served over 230,000 meals throughout those 11 meal sites to over 1,100 seniors in those communities. The Benton County meal site is located in Corvallis at the Elks Lodge on 9th Street, and we served over 38,000 meals from that meal site last fiscal year to over 160 seniors. In Philomon, the consumers that we served from that meal site, we provided over 5,600 meals last fiscal year to over 45 consumers that reside in Philomon. We request a suggested donation of $3.50 per meal for our non-Medicaid seniors, and our all-in cost for the meals is that's packaging, contracts, personnel, everything is $11.75. But we do not turn seniors away if they're unable to provide that donation. And as I said, we don't have a waiting list. We serve all the seniors as they are referred to Meals on Wheels. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding meals.
And I just want to mention that I'm on the board of directors for the COG and the executive committee, so I will be recusing myself from this.
Okay. And Chrissy, I'm glad that you provided information about Philomon specifically. This, as you mentioned, it is a very broad-ranging service that you're providing. Do you happen to know if in Philomon that the 45 consumers that you had and the meals, has that trended upwards, or do you have any sense of trending on that?
We actually had a decrease across all the meal sites this past fiscal year from the prior to about a 7% decrease, whereas the prior fiscal year, so fiscal year 21 had an increase of about 23%. And so this past fiscal year, fiscal year 22, sorry, I'm confusing all my fiscal years there. We actually had a decrease across all the meal sites of 7%.
And do you anticipate that changing?
I don't know. I think it's too soon to know whether that'll continue to decline or if it'll remain steady or increase.
Okay.
Do you have any idea why it declined?
I don't. I'm new to the role, only a few months, so I don't know the reason for that. I don't know if there was an increase due to COVID. Our meal sites just started to reopen for in-person dining at the end of May. And so we haven't seen a large number of consumers coming back to the meal sites. So we're trying to bring them back into the meal sites as well. And that may impact the numbers as they come back.
Right. Thank you. Any further questions, Councilor Costin? Okay. Christy, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Feel free to stay on via virtual and stay tuned to the rest of the show.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. The next one is Philomon Community Services. I believe Mark McGuire is in Zoom. Or
Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
yes.
So yeah, I know a lot of folks are familiar with Philomon Community Services, so I prepared a couple slides. I was just gonna so sharing the screen is disabled. I can just kind of verbalize. I can share some slides, but let's take a look here. So we've been around since 1991. We have 5 programs. We have our food bank, the cleaners operation, a community garden, a holiday gift exchange or distribution, and then a clothing exchange. And happy to dive into detail. I'm not sure what is new to some folks and what is all old news. I know there's not much time, but as you know, Philomath is growing. By any statistics I can find, we're outpacing the state average. And so there's more people coming into Philomath, and we all know prices are rising. And so there's a greater demand on PCS, and we're trying to keep up with satisfying that demand for services, keeping people fed and clothed so that their income can be spent on things like health and home repair and that kind of thing. So, you know, we just last year, I don't know if we've ever recorded more food processed from PCS. We had, I think altogether, let me look at my presentation really quick. It was pretty amazing. Yeah, we logged over 600,000 pounds of food coming in and out of PCS, and that's a ton of food. And even with volunteer hours, we logged over 15,000 hours. And so I'm always amazed at how much PCS does. And so we have a couple people who are paid, but 97% of the work that goes into PCS is volunteer. And so you know, it's an amazing organization. I'm really privileged to be a part of it. And we are just today asking the city for continued support for our general operating expenses. The city has been gracious for many years, and so the ask is sort of an average of the past 4 or 5 years. And happy to go into detail on any potential questions.
Thank you, Mark. I also want to say that I'm going to recuse myself from this. I'm the president of the board of directors for PCS, so I will not be saying anything.
Mark, you indicated that your request is an average of prior years. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but it's quite a bit higher than last year as well. Do you want to comment on that?
So my understanding, and I don't have complete records on 2021. I was trying to get that information, but our last two asks were higher than what we're asking this year, was my understanding. I could be incorrect, and they were related to our cooler installation and a cooler cover. And then before that, the numbers were less than what we're asking this year, and they were also for general operating expenses like we're asking for this year. But I can provide more specific numbers offline if helpful, for sure.
Yeah, it may be the difference between what was requested and what was donated last year is $5,000. So you may well request it more than that.
I see. Okay. I could be looking at that number.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for coming here today. Can you just describe the folks who are using your services?
Yeah. So let's see. If you don't mind, I could send over the presentation slides because I have a demographic page, but we have been doing a little bit of a better job tracking data lately, and so the people who use our services in general are disproportionately high in terms of households with lots of people. So we have households with, let's see if I can pull up that number. I don't have it in front of me, but the households that PCS serves have more people than the average number of people per household. The household that PCS serves is more likely to be a renter than the average. So we don't serve as many homeowners. They're more likely to have less than a college degree or only a high school education than the average. They're disproportionately high in Hispanic. That's one that was rather significant. So the Philomon average Hispanic population is 6%. The average client for PCS is 20% likely to be Hispanic. So we are heavily serving those minority populations. And let's see here. Oh, and children. The Philomon population is 28% children. 43% of PCS clientele are children. And so we have some of this data in the application, and we did put in some work on a comprehensive demographic report this year, and I'd be happy to share it if the council would like.
Thank you. And then one really quick question is, approximately what percentage of your clients come from Philomon?
So that would be over 80%, because I know that we have close to 20% from Corvallis. So I'd have to dig out the specific number, but I would say 80% right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Mark, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity, and it's good to see everyone.
You too. Okay, next up, PYAC, Eddie Van Black.
My last name is Van Black, so I'm going to go by Apple, but I'm not used to being at the end of the line. But then when I realized it's strictly rural families this year, I was like, whoo, I won't have to be at the end. Thank you for being here. I just want to say, I don't envy the position that you guys are in as a council or as a committee, because you're going to have tough decisions to make with limited resources, and every organization that's in here is doing incredible work. And I think that as we look around the room, with the exception of maybe Chuck's group, we partner and work with every group in here. And so we know very well the importance of all the other organizations that are asking for money. So I didn't prepare a formal presentation. Most folks are relatively familiar with our organization. We're going on 30 years as an organization here in Philomon, my 25th year with the organization. I would say the biggest thing that changed over those 25 years is we've gone from a very small grassroots youth sports organization into not a large, but a mid-sized nonprofit that really is more focused on positive youth development rather than youth athletics. Youth athletics is one avenue and one tool that we can get to positive youth development, but it's just one tool. We do a lot of other programming. We do a lot of specific outreach for at-risk youth, which I hate that term because I think every youth is at risk, some of them more so than others, but the biggest challenge we've seen over the last couple of years is increased numbers. Our numbers are increasing this year, but more important than that is a decreased skill set within the youth that we serve. I don't think anyone that works with youth in any capacity will tell you any different story than the pandemic has had a significant impact on the youth in our community, and they're coming into our programs with a deficit in social and emotional skills. Over 2 years just really impacted them. And so how that has impacted us is staff to student ratio. We simply can't have the same number of staff members that we have had in previous years to be able to adequately meet the needs of those kids. And so we're almost at twice capacity. So twice as many staff members for the same amount of students that we had pre-pandemic. And so we're asking the council for just continued general support to help us make sure we have the number of staff people that we have to meet the needs of the kids in our program. So, like I said, I could talk way more than 3 minutes, so I'll leave it at that and then see what questions you guys.
Thank you. And I also want to say that I know you can talk more than 3 minutes. There's a family relationship that I have with Ed, so I'm going to recuse myself from questions here too. So thank you.
And as someone who, I've lived here for 5 years, can you tell me how long you've actually had the physical experience?
The reason I know that is because when I was graduating college, I actually got my teaching degree and was planning on going to teaching. And we were starting the campus campaign to build the building. And I thought, well, this will be a neat experience, look good on a resume. That was in 1998 that we started the capital campaign to build the building. We opened the stores in 2001, which sometimes seems like forever ago, and sometimes just seems like yesterday. And thank you very much for your volunteer help and sprucing the place up for us a little bit recently.
That's a perfect segue. I was wondering how much of your staffing is volunteers that pay staff?
So we have different areas of programming, and so in our youth athletics, we're, with the exception of myself, a portion of my salary goes to youth athletics, and then we have a halftime sports coordinator. But all of our coaches, I mean, we have over 350 volunteers, so the lion's share of our work is done by volunteers. With that said, we run a state certified child care program, which is our after school program, and then a drop-in club for, so the state certified child care program is K through 4, actually K through 5, if fifth graders don't access it. And then we have a drop-in, which is called the Clemens Clubhouse, and that's 4th grade through 8th grade. And so we have to staff those. Those aren't all, I mean, we have volunteers come in and do enrichment, relationship activity, and strengthening real families. So we do different things there, but those are staffing. And so, typically we would have 3 staff. For example, right now our program's going as we speak. We have a Fund the Sun program. We have 60 kids enrolled, and we average about 45 kids a day. And normally we have 4 staff members over there, and we had 6 when I left. And one can make the argument a couple more would be helpful. So, yeah. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but mostly volunteers.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. All right. And strengthening rural families. All Smith.
That's me. Paul Smith, I'm the executive director at Strengthen Rural Families. I've been there. I started my 9th year. Strengthen Rural Families has been around since 2005. It was really started as a collaborative effort between some leaders in the community, the rural school superintendents, and the county department. Some of that collaborative spirit. Some of those community partners still continue to this day, as do a lot of the folks behind me who are doing incredible work. So just to pile on to Eddie's statement, I think you're really seeing the net that the nonprofit kind of community partners really provide, for folks in this community and other communities. So, our specific request is for to support instructor fees for some of our parenting education programs. We do a variety of programming, but most of what we do is really housed in kind of upstream prevention work. So a lot of that is parenting education and early childhood education. This specific request is aimed at just the instructor fees for our Little Martin toddler program, as well as some of our other kind of parent-child and parent education programs to offset some of this costs. We usually mix multiple sources of funding to really cover the costs of those things, but this has been a meaningful contribution to that. We're off the side of the Commons Primary School building. We have actually they're kind enough to give us a classroom space too. And then, so a lot of our programming happens out there. We're lucky enough, kind of as we turn the corner on this calendar year to get back to a lot higher level of in-person programming, which is the community is really sort of hungry for. So we were able to do actually a parent-child baby class, a class for trees, as well as a toddler class this past year, which we're all attended. So, and we have some programming already planned. Just got on the blue sheet in front of you. That's kind of just general explanation of programming we have upcoming this year. The yellow sheet is sort of what we accomplished, or we're sort of investing in doing this past fiscal year. Just trying to finish it before the other one up.
Good job. I wonder if you can comment on the impact of pandemic.
Yeah, so Eddie was really getting at it. I mean, I think if you talk to educators in general or anyone working with youth, children, the developmental delays are really real. Even ABC House, we saw less reporting of domestic violence and child abuse, but what you saw in emergency room data was really like high levels of severity. So there's all this, pieces of people kind of being separated from their normal support systems, kids really showing up with deficits in terms of just normal kinds of developmental arcs. So, kind of a simple takeaway is, we're seeing, fifth graders who are really third graders, or, pick your thing. But it's actually, I feel like it's a little more complicated or sophisticated than that. It really ranges based on families and, what people have either the energy, capacity to do in terms of, other interactions, or just going feral, So, and then I think the people that were on the margins, we were seeing some trends going in, like around childcare and attendance figures. So an example I use is prior to COVID, we were seeing teenagers not coming to school because they were having to stay at home to do childcare for their families, so their parents could work. And so a lot of that, anyone who's on the margins, I think, going into the pandemic, some have just like completely fallen off the map. There's still a whole percentages of the population we just don't have a handle on in terms of what their needs are, what's going on.
Thank you. And you describe the folks that are most likely to use or come to strengthening rural families, and where do they hear about the programs?
So we have a lot. I mean, we put up flyers around town, but we have really good relationships with the school, so we're able to put out that information for the school. It's really a mixed bag. Our approach in general is to beat the underlying demographics. People have been talking about that a little bit. In terms of folks who are further from opportunities, so whether it's ethnicity or income, those kind of things. So really, like one of our parents in education classes is something really is going to be Spanish language. That's one way we approach that. But really, it's like looking at the different levels of, we have different proxies like participation during school lunch or those kind of things, so that we're over-representing the people who would not want to have those opportunities. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, and it's all complicated. All the numbers are complicated. or messy in COVID times. So like this sheet, you see that total of 222 families or whatever pre-COVID, that'd be over 1,000. It could be closer to 2,000. So I mean, just those real practical impacts of when we just rolled up the sidewalks.
Right.
So I think we'll see somewhat of a change that way, so that you can get it more people when we just have more services too.
I guess what I was thinking of, and I'm not quite sure how to phrase it without, I don't want to send the wrong tone on anything, but we hear a lot about inclusivity and different meeting needs of special groups and folks that have traditionally maybe been considered minorities or sort of out of the mainstream or whatever. And there is that focus now on recognizing everybody and providing safe spaces and that sort of thing. Can you speak to that a little bit about how the program works on that?
Yeah, so philosophically, because we're in the prevention side of things, there's kind of different schools of thought about that. One of them is, which is that we're tied to, is that the idea of being universally available, trying to keep your costs accessible, making sure that's not an impediment, that you're doing outreach and engagement to folks that wouldn't necessarily be in the mainstream set of contacts. So I think a lot of it really is about that approach. Are you welcoming to the broadest swath of the community, really? And I think when you look at things like parent-child together classes, that's a place you actually have a chance to build community, regardless of what someone's lived experience is, whether it's ethnicity or poverty or whatever the case might be. So getting back to what Chad was asking, I think really being intentional on our side about that, we're trying to exceed what at 6% or 8% of the population is Hispanic or Latino, you're really trying to meet or exceed that percentage. The same would be true, I forget what the latest numbers, they're a little skewed because of COVID. When you look at free and reduced lunch participation in Philomon schools, it's 40, high 40s maybe, or mid 40s. So you want to see that there's that percentage of the population is represented in demographics. That's our approach. But really not being. There are places I think where it's like being very specific about a population can be helpful. But in the kind of work we do, the prevention work we do, I think that universal approach where you're really trying to connect the community is served us.
Okay. Good. Well, great. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Okay. So at this point, I just want to kind of make a distinction here. So the folks that we've heard from, all of these requests are coming under our social service agency funding request. And again, I mentioned that it's some money that we get from the state share. And so the total that we have this year that's available for this group is $36,811. We have requests from all of you that we're going to divvy that up. We'll do our deliberations, but there's another two folks here. And so we have a separate, this might be a little confusing, but we have a separate pot of money, if you will, in quotes, and it's utility assistance funding. So it's not necessarily the same situation we have, program we have with the social service agencies. This is where we have some dedicated money from our water and sewer funds that we have made available specifically to groups that can provide assistance for people that are having trouble paying their utility bills and really need short-term, maybe one-time sort of assistance. And we have Vina Moses and We Care here. And it's a separate amount of money that we have. So I guess I'd like to invite Vina Moses and Eileen up. Sure.
I feel like we should go together.
Or maybe you'd like to go together.
I know, right? I mean, seriously, like we can sit up there together if you want.
Yes, please. Why don't we do that?
And the
Work
outside,
together
so I gotta share.
all the time.
All right.
Yeah, we talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to meet all of you in person. I'm Amy, I'm the executive director at Financial Center, and I've been there since April 2020.
Right.
So it's been a whirlwind. So we are asking for emergency financial assistance. That's one of our programs that we have at Financial Center. I don't know how familiar you are in general with what we do, but we've been around since 1918. We have a free thrift store. People who need it can come and shop there. It's all free. And then we have this emergency financial assistance, where I will say we are low barrier. We don't require documentation for any of our programs, with the exception of this emergency financial assistance. We work closely with the vendors, the people who are basically paying the bills for people. And we do have, I don't know how many want to jump in whenever, but we work as a group because we really are the place that says yes. There are a lot of places, especially during the pandemic, that weren't available, that weren't, because people were working from home. We've been open the whole entire time. And so, and a lot of different places have a lot of different rules, if you will. And not that we're lawless, running around just kind of making all these decisions without not making thoughtful decisions. But we were able to be that place that says yes in a way that other places aren't able to do. And then often there are requests that are too large for us to be able to handle. So we coordinate with other groups. We Care is one of them, St. Vincent de Paul, St. Mary's, Casa de los Unidos. And we often will work together to meet. And there are more. I know, I'm still involved too on here. Yeah. So yeah, we do work together to get a lot, to meet those larger needs that we can't do on our own.
Okay.
So Bob Lowen from We Care. We Care's been around, not since 1983, about 40 years. And We Care provides, for the most part, one-time financial assistance to people who have a variety of needs. Fall into a lot of categories, but the basic one is like our housing, which is rent deposits, and utilities. One of the things I like working with the city of Bournemouth is, because you're so small and you're involved, when someone comes in and they're having trouble, you know, we refer them to it. And sometimes someone will come in and it's not just the utility bill, it's the rent, or it's also electricity or whatever. And that's where sometimes we'll get a request for 3 or 4 items that we cannot do on our own. So then by those individual calls, we all work together to make that. And that's very common. And we do pretty extensive vetting of our clientele, probably more so than any other. On any request, when we talk to the landlord, the property manager, city planner, whoever, to verify the amount that's needed, and the funds are sent directly to the vendor. No money goes to the person who did the application.
Well, I'll say too, on our part, like we've already funded 400 households this year, and 123 of those were collaborative funding, which doesn't mean it's necessary, not that you're involved with every single one of them, but we're not necessarily involved in all of yours either.
Do you know how many of those households were in Bournemouth?
So last year we had 44 households that were in Philomon, and overall we had about 530 individuals from Philomon, just from all of our programs, because we also have a back to school program and a giving tree program around holidays, and we do coordinate with Philomon Community Services. Just so you know, we know them too. So, yeah, so I think we benefited somewhere. It was over 100 people last year. I think it was, just for that financial services, or about 100. Yeah.
We also know that about 28 almost $20,000 in the system.
When we do different things, we do sometimes too, like the gas, like if we need that. And we do get some of those referrals, which I'm sure is the same for you, from other agencies, and that makes it easier for us. Like we have someone who was working with Corvallis Corvallis Housing First, but they're moving to Philomon, and we've got a very generous our property owner here in Philomon that we hear from a lot too. Who's really awesome. Yes.
So one of the things I wanted to share, because of that, one of the big things is keeping people in their house. So yesterday, a job that I have as part-time is a craft vacancy unit. The number of vacant units in a variety of communities in the Mid-Atlantic Valley. So yesterday, there were 5 vacant units in Philomon. The least expensive was a 1-bedroom for $1,772. That was the least expensive unit available. Sometimes you find something for $1,300, sometimes $1,600, but that's kind of the direction. It's certainly not Philomon, it's Corvallis. 11 is often the highest priced market in our area right now. I know, it's a shock. Their economy is booming, and so they're booming.
You mentioned that you provide one-time financial assistance. But what if someone comes back to you the next month?
Well,
How do you handle that?
so they come back the next month, and that's rare that they come back that soon because they're told we're not going to help them. But sometimes there are extenuating circumstances that happen. For instance, we helped, in partnership with Cargill, located someone into an apartment. And then shortly thereafter, the abuser found them, and they needed to move again. Well, Cargill didn't have access to money the way that we have flexibility in our application of funds. Cargill could provide them with extra money that we could to get them into another safe location in Denver. So that's, those are unusual circumstances. During the pandemic, we had one person in particular who struggled with addiction, who just got through training and out and working, and then the restaurant closed down, and he went back to using it. We actually helped him 3 times because he was fairly small. That 3rd time. So sometimes it's worth making that extra. And during the pandemic, communities, people were very generous with donations. We received more than double what we were normally doing in 1 year. We were able to stretch dollars very far in 2021.
So ours is, we have timeframes, people, when they can ask, or when they're eligible and when they're not eligible. And honestly, though, I would say a majority of the asks end up being one time. A lot of the time, we never hear from them again. Or actually, I shouldn't say we never hear from them again. Then maybe they come and shop at the center, or use our back to school program, or utilize our Giving Tree program. So there's a lot of cross pollination between those programs, so we can help people in the best way possible.
And Bob, am I right that you're all volunteer? There's no paid staff for We Care? If I look at the financials, that's what I'm looking at.
So I will answer that question. So the way We Care was set up, and it operated until 4 years ago, was that there was an agency who provided the intake. And then CFC, who was that agency at that time, could no longer afford to. So we went to an all-volunteer organization. And I can tell you that working with all volunteers in a very tough situation, especially with the pandemic, burns out your volunteers to the point where we actually, for the first time in 29 years, did not meet one as a board, and we meet every week to allocate funds. So we had no volunteers available. That was the tipping point to start looking at a partner, at hiring someone. The challenge for our board is when we hire someone, that means we have less funds to allocate. Instead of helping about 300 families a year, that would subtract about 125 families. Unacceptable. So we are in the process right now, as we speak, looking at partnering. We've spoken 3 or 4 weeks ago about possibilities. We're going to talk again very soon. I have meetings the next 2 days with people to talk about other sources of funds that might help us hire some $20 to $30 a week. Again, it's tough work. If you're not trained as a social worker, all of a sudden you're dealing with people trying to be on the phone with the financial situation or something. It's, kids are all involved. That takes a toll. We've been very lucky that our current group of volunteers is former nurse, retired nurse, former attorney, and social worker that has gone through the case. But even they're very good.
Well, I have personal experience too with what it's like to just have an all volunteer organization, and I totally understand what you're talking about. So yeah. Well, okay. Are there other questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Brian. Could you describe the survey?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what prompted that?
Well, so again, I started in 2020. And so I kind of wanted to, and Vina has a long history before I ever got there. And it was just a way to connect with, we just adopted a strategic plan in August of 2021. And after coming out of that, I kind of had a sense of maybe what was going on, but I really wanted to hear from people who were coming through the door every single day. And so we asked someone who's bilingual, bicultural to do a survey project for us. And we got some interesting stuff out of it. It's not actually published yet, but it's really fascinating. Because one of the things we're also looking for a bigger space, not to be a warehouse, but to partner with other agencies so we can all be in the same building. We just wanted to feel it out a little bit, and just some other things as well. Some of the things that we learned is that there's some things that more team clothes, more work clothes that people wanted. Like we started a workforce closet this year for people who were doing labor, summer labor. We found out that it really doesn't matter where we go. People will still find us, so that's good. And we did survey from all over Philomath, rural. We make sure we have people from Philomath, Alcide, Monroe, Corvallis. We found that we've done a little bit better job cross-explaining or advertising our other programs through our other programs, so that's exciting. And some people were just surprised that we were even asking what they thought, because we give everything away for free. They're like, really? But actually, somebody did say something to me. I wrote it down. That's right. I wanted to bring it with me. She said, what did she say to me? Because she was, see if I can find it. Of course, I can't. Where is it? Oh, she said, right? So she wasn't familiar with resources in the area, and it's great that the kids can come and feel like they're really shopping and no one's saying, what do you need? And then handing you a box of things. So people feel empowered to make some choices. And so that made us feel pretty good that people trust us and feel like they're treated with respect, which was pretty cool.
Right. Okay, well, thank you both. I think this obviously speaks for itself, the collaborative nature of what you're both doing, and then everyone else has spoken. It's just, I mean, it's almost like, I'm not sure how to categorize it, but it just really speaks to the spirit of the community and the interest in really helping people that are in need of that. So thank you here. I think what I'd like to do, one of the questions I have is for the finance director, which I think is apropos to everybody. So Mr. Finance Director, in a lot of the applications we have, the word grant is used. And my understanding, grant is that if we grant money, then the recipient needs to do some reporting back and so on.
Right.
What are the expectations of the city from your position? Because in what we've done in the past, it's more, well, a donation, if you will.
This is a donation, yes, but still it's a grant money. Anything over $600, we have to give them whatever.
W-9.
W-9, yeah,
Okay.
and they've all turned in their information.
Okay.
And so that's our expectation. I mean, we're going to give them money and they're going to do what they're going to do.
Okay.
We're not going to, put any strings on it.
So we're not asking for a follow-up
report,
report as to
no.
where, okay.
Not unless council wants that.
Okay.
That's the kind of council.
Well, I just wanted to clarify, because for your benefit too, I know when you get grant money, what's the due date for the report or whatever.
Yeah, I can't dodge the IRS.
Well, let me ask my colleagues here, the mayor and Councilor Kazi. I don't think at the council level, I don't think we've spoken directly about receiving follow-up reports. I think we appreciate it if we get feedback as to, oh yes, we really appreciate the money that you gave us, and here's the impact it had in Philomon. We certainly like to hear that news, but it's not something we mandated.
Just thinking off the top of my head, it's something we could do in conjunction with the annual request. But I think the people who come here today have also made it pretty clear what they would use the funds for.
Right.
So.
And first, I'm a pretty big fan of kind of the no strings attached approach. We're gonna offer a donation. I think it's best practice to allow these events in the way that's needed.
Mm-hmm.
We're supporting the organization and the mission of the organizations. more generally. Is that kind of my feeling?
Great. And I will note that from all of, really many, if not all of the organizations we've donated to in the past will receive letters of thank you, gratitude over a period of time, and they make into our council packages. And I know as a counselor, we'll appreciate that. So I think that's probably the best way to go, unless we have other direction. So thank you. So just in looking at this, as I mentioned, we have two sources really of money. We have the larger amount for the social service agency distinction, and then we have the secondary amount for you. I don't know if you folks want to listen to this. You can if you want. Okay. Well, there you go. So if the committee is okay with this, I was thinking we could maybe just discuss and take care of the utility assistance request first, and then move to the other one that's a little more involved than this is. And it's all public record. So the request from Vina Moses was $5,000 for this funding year, and $4,000 from We Care, for a total of $9,000. We actually have $10,350 that is recommended, that we have available to the city, available. And I want to also make clear that the council will have the final recommendation, but the council has the final say in just what's what. So it'll be the council meeting. So make sure I got that out there. Anyway, my initial thought is, since the two are so collaborative, we just split it down the middle. Give them same. Well, if we wish to give the full amount, then I was proposing $5,175 for each.
I seem to recall in years past that at least I think that the former finance director suggested that these are the amounts that are approximately what was used to support Philomon residents. I don't know if that's exactly the case. If we want to maintain that, but it also seems like it's just kind of a general amount.
I think in the past, the amount that's been recommended by the finance director that's come to us, have we not typically given that amount out, that full amount? I mean, I don't know.
I thought one year that we did it less than because of what I just described.
Yes, I mean, I don't recall. Sorry. And you weren't here, so. Councilor Cosby.
I have a question and a suggestion. I believe that the monies in this fund cannot be transferred to any other fund. Is that
For the water, for the utility assistance, right, that's got to stay in those two funds, because
Okay.
that's the utility funds.
And if it is not used, would it just go forward into the next year?
Yes, it will.
My recommendation would be, first I'd like to say how hard this is. These are such wonderful organizations, and I remember seeing Dementia Warriors at the farmers market when I first moved here. Look at those killing people. But I think I don't necessarily want to set a precedent or a pattern for, we're going to give out whatever we have. Even though it's not a big difference between what they're asking for, they know what they need and they know why they asked for this amount. So I would recommend that we donate the 9,000 as requested and allow the rest to go forward.
So then if we did that, so the amount that rolls forward into next year would come back to us next year with whatever, I mean, that'd be added on to the funding recommended. No.
I mean, we'll come forward with the same. We had 5,001 in water and 5,250 in sewer.
Okay.
If council wants to increase it to include that, yes, this is going to roll forward into the beginning fund balance.
Okay. So the difference between what we're saying is recommended right now and then what we have requested, that will, if we just get the 9,000, that additional just gets that absorbed back into the fund. And
Yes.
next year, totally different thing. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm supportive of that idea.
Okay. So Councilor Pazzi,
Yeah.
so our recommendation, I would agree. I think it makes sense. So,
Yeah.
So our recommendation then on the utility assistance funding request would be as they have requested, but
There's a recommendation.
recommendation.
But we can do a motion.
Okay.
Yes, I move that we donate the amounts requested by the two organizations, $5,000 to Blind Moses and $4,000 to We Care.
For a total of 9. Just for a total of 9,000.
Total of
Yeah.
9,000 with the balance
Yeah.
to carry forward into the next fiscal year.
And that's from the water and sewer fund.
Water and sewer.
Yes.
From the water.
Okay. Okay, motion by Councilor Pazzi, seconded by Councilor Jones, Mayor Jones, sorry, sir. And all in favor? Aye. All right, great. So that's that. So the one that is the more involved and really, I echo what you're saying, Councilor Pazzi, about how difficult this is because with Chuck, with what you talked about with Dementia Warriors and what we heard from the Habitat for Humanity, these two are new to us. The other folks have come to us in the past, and I'm particularly impressed with with the mission and the service that the Dementia Warriors are providing from just a short period of time. And I'm seeing Philomon all over this, Slovis, residents, people that are in need, senior citizens for the most part, although it can be open to anybody that has that condition. We don't have a senior service area. This is really a nice focus on that. So, I'm very grateful that the organization is here. So I guess, how would we like to do this? Just, I have some observations about various ones of these, but I don't necessarily want to just jump into kind of willy-nilly. We have recommended funding of $36,811, but again, we don't have to do that. Take all of that amount, right?
Right.
We divvy up. The total funding request is $58,657, but of that, the lion's share by far is Benton Habitat for Humanity of 28,000 plus. And I think right off the bat, 28,000 is not doable.
Well, I'd like to, if I may, I'd like to
Sure.
revisit that discussion just to make sure I fully understand what could or could not be done. So we project each year SDC income. And if this income did not come from this particular house, that projected income would be reduced by that.
Yes, that is true.
And based on what you said earlier, you'd have to have an offsetting.
Well, in this particular instance, Council Causey, I've got, basically we're going to be paying ourselves. We're going to be moving the money from one fund to another, which is a reserve for future SDC projects or whatever we use it for. So, the general fund, normally goes out the door to these people, but this one's going to just go over to this fund and sit there until we need it.
Okay, I see. Now, my other question is in the past, Daniel mentioned that we have delayed receipt of SDCs, I believe.
Yes, we deferred. They signed a paperwork that they're not paying the whole thing up front. They, in 6 months, they sign a piece of paper saying, we're gonna defer this for, I think, up to 10 years, maybe, or 20 payments, whatever that may be. I think it's, anyway, they make a payment every 6 months. So they're deferring it until they either sell it, renovate it, or whatever they're gonna do, and then refinance it. Then they come in and pay the rest of the SDCs. So it could be 2-3 years down the road before we see, you know, maybe their balance is 28,000, I believe. So if they pay 2,000 a year, and 2-3 years, they're gonna have 20 grand. So I mean, right now, you know, they're paying they're paying us every 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's principal and interest.
Yeah, but in the past, it doesn't sound as though we have ever merely waived or donated a portion of SDCs.
Not that I'm aware of.
I can answer that question.
Okay. I would like to suggest for your consideration, because the council has such a focus on affordable housing as a priority, that we take that step of donating a portion of these SDCs. And I'm not sure what the appropriate figure would be. I think we have in the budget to donate about $6,369 or something like that. I would like to know if the council would have an appetite for donating additional funds from the council budget, if that would be
Anything's doable.
Do
I have some concerns about setting precedent for waiving SPCs for new families, organizations. That's the extent of that concern. I don't know exactly. I don't feel like I have a strong enough grasp of all the implications, but I feel like it's a risk there that I don't have enough information for right now. So that's one thing, just setting a precedent for that. I'm not opposed to contributing to it in this manner. I was just like, thinking of process of trying to, each year we struggle with trying to figure out how we're going to do this, right? And I was just thinking that one potential way of doing this, you know, the average of these 8 donations would be $4,600 approximately, if we divide it equally. We have some who ask for less. And I'm wondering if it makes sense to offer those who will ask for less than 4,600, offer them the full amount, and then divvy up the remaining equally amongst the donators.
I was
I've never heard that proposal made in 20 years. It's very logical, but
I think some of it does depend on need. I mean, but I was okay. I like that way of thinking. Another thought, another way to look at it, I was especially with Ben Habitat for Humanity. So the hook for me really is affordable housing. That really grabs me. But then I absolutely share what you're saying about setting precedent. And we had, you know, a lot of deliberations about SDCs, the council meetings and the fairness of them and who gets them, all that stuff. Really don't want to create an issue where we've got different elements saying, hey, you know, it's not fair how you treat these things. I was looking at it from the viewpoint of, okay, so just divorce it from the SDC. That's the rationale for coming out with that dollar amount of money. But if I look at their income, their financials, I mean, they're pretty well put together. They've got quite a bit of money coming in. There's lots of things that they are dealing with. So they've got a fairly healthy, big balance sheet and income statement. So I'm thinking, well, we could certainly support them in terms of affordable housing, what they're doing, Quail Glen, the homes that they put in, the ones that they plan to do. So I think it's worthy of city support. So I was thinking, well, I just rather, I'd like a 5% of 5% of the rest, about 10,000. Is that right? No, not really. Anyway, I came up with $10,000, which equals 5% of something, which I think was the overall construction cost of the home. I think, yeah, in this case, but so I guess I was looking at $10,000 as a donation from the city in the support the work of Benton Habitat for Humanity towards affordable housing, and not really getting into the SDC part of it.
That would be cleaner.
Yeah.
So if we gave them 10,000. That brings our total.
It means you have to do
Can I
somebody
make a
less than what they
Sure.
requested.
Yeah.
Finance director?
I've got an idea. I mean, this is, I looked at this earlier today. If you funded them at this year's level, you'd have left over, you'd have 14,811. And then if you fully funded dementia, that'd be 15. If you have left 13,311, you could give that to, I mean, then you're just kind of like setting the bar for them, I guess. But that's kind of an easy way I did it, that makes any sense.
So
Okay,
you go over
Mr.
that
Mayor.
one.
No idea what you just said.
Okay, what I said, okay, we fund them at their 2021 donations.
So
That came to
that's
22,000.
22,000.
Right.
That leaves a 14,811. Just to give to the two new people. You fund the Dementia Warriors fully, 1,500, and then you give them the leftover 13,311. Right, that's my, does that make sense, Mr. Mayor?
I got it now.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Then
actually,
then you're just funding the ABC house and strengthening rural families a bit less than what they requested, but everybody else was funding at
Pretty
the
much,
amount except for Benton.
yes.
And below the community service.
I was actually wanting to suggest that we give Dementia Warriors more than 15 in light of what they're doing. And I guess I was thinking more in the area, like 2,000.
And I'm just gonna take it all out here, but another idea comparable to what Mike was suggesting would be to fund everybody what they requested, except for Benton Habitat for Humanity. If you wanted to increase Dementia Warriors, you could, but, and then you could give the remaining amount to Benton Habitat for Humanity.
Right, I was calculating that, that's, and I was, yeah,
Regarding the approach that
63.
Councilor Lowe has suggested, the percentage seems just kind of random, that we could pick any random number, but I do like the idea of coming up with at least kind of a general rule of thumb that we apply. That's just,
Yeah. Well, in the 5% that I came up with here was, they were saying the 14%, the dollar amount that they were looking for originally represents 14% of the home they're building.
Yeah.
So I just then went to, okay, so that really means the total cost is about $201,000. 5% of that roughly is 10,000, which is where just tying the house, but taking away from the SDC.
but then you have some precedent for the percentage application of.
Yeah, it's a little squirrely.
I wondered, do we,
That's a technical word.
do we really think that Dementia Warriors could use any additional funds?
I think we could, yes.
Yeah, well, okay.
I want to make one statement with regard to Dementia Warriors.
Mhm.
Chuck reached out to me a year ago, about a month after, or less than a month after, this committee made the allocations for last year. And I explained to him that he had missed, that they had missed the deadline for last year. And he very patiently waited all year and stayed in touch with me. And I kept him apprised of the timeline because the committee was working on the application process and everything like that. And so I just wanted to make that point that they had hoped to apply last year, but did not learn about it. Well, we have talked about the increased exposure we gave to soliciting applications this year.
Thank you.
Question. Two of us are on boards. There's two of us are on boards and can't really consider detailed recommendations for
You
certain
do not
organizations.
need to recuse yourselves from that conversation as a member of a board.
Okay.
Or a family, and there's no economic.
You're making a recommendation to council, the council is making the final decision.
True.
So yeah, I would like to make a motion that we fund everyone at the requested amount. We could increasing Dementia Warriors to $2,000 and give them offering the remaining to Ben have that.
Okay.
So what does that work out to?
I'll second that, and then I have a question.
When you guys ready, I got the numbers if you want me.
So, so I just want to bring this up. In terms of the 501c3, so it is based on Peace Lutheran Church, which is a faith-based organization. I don't have any question about the relationship, but I'm just wondering if down the road, if any other organization that was affiliated with the church, a synagogue, or whatever, a mosque, came to us. I mean, are we setting a precedent that way? Yeah, I don't.
It depends on who they serve. If they serve everybody in the community versus only their only a certain population, that would be very different.
Right. And in this case too, the funding, as I understand it from here, there's no dollar amount of funding directly going to Dementia Warriors. There's space available and support.
I am curious if the church is taking any cut of the donation.
No.
So
Yeah, they don't take any cut and nobody is paid whatsoever.
They're just sponsoring what we.
yeah, I mean, I think morally and everything is the right thing to do. I just wanted to.
I don't have a concern with stuff.
Okay. Sorry, well, I second your motion. Any more discussion?
Yes, what was the number that we go to?
Okay, what we're gonna do based on the mayor's recommendation, we're gonna fund everybody at what they requested for the 22-23 year. That comes to roughly 30,450. And we take that away from what we have. We have 63, 65, 61 available. Then you decided to change Dementia Warriors to 200 or 500, 2,000, which is a $500 increase. So I take that away from that original balance that we got 5,861 will go to Benton Habitat.
5861.
5861.
Yeah, offer an amendment to the motion. I would like to.
David, it's your call.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask the council if they would be willing to increase that amount to 10,000. From council. Based on our interest.
Yeah.
But then we'd have to take it away from.
My suggestion on that preference would be that the council consider that on their own outside of this recommendation.
No, it's a separate.
If we want to offer a donation from another pot of money, we could, or if we wanted to move funds, but I think it would keep it cleaner just to do something that we stated. And I know that. Well, after this, I was also going to bring up another issue regarding indemnity, right, which would be something similar.
Okay. So no amendment.
well, I will ask the council.
Right, okay. Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay, so all in favor of the motion? Aye, okay. Very good, so we have that. So, and then Councilor Kazi will bring this up, the additional for Benton Habitat. I think it is a worthy thing to bring up too, so I appreciate that. And then there was another request we had that Mayor received, passed along to the committee, which is from the NAACP.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Mayor, would you like to
Yeah,
explain
I can,
that, please? I didn't bring my,
it's fine, and I don't have it with me either, but NAACP just simply emailed me asking for if the city would be interested in sponsoring or offering a grant to the organization for their annual giving. Freedom. I forwarded this group to say we want to consider it, but reality is, if we want to direct that towards the council, I think that would be entirely appropriate. The council may have discretionary funds available that they may choose to apply to something like that or to other requests, and I think that would be fine. So, but I did just want to forward it to this committee just if we were considering these.
and then just for the record too, the particular request came in apart from the social service solicitation and after the deadline. So that's why it's not included.
That's correct.
So then, as a routine matter, if we are approached by organizations during the year requesting funding, we could respond to them, but it would be outside of the social services.
Yeah, and I would just tell them that we do it at the first of the year, be ready for it, or check in with us, or check in with staff, so.
We'll also mention that, again, as a precedent setting thing, I'm not a huge fan of the idea of us considering applications for funding on a one-off basis. Because then I think that eventually people are just going to, like, first of the budget year, start asking us for money and then it'll all be gone and we won't have any. So I get nervous about that rather than kind of being more need-based. But, you know, I just don't know. So sorry, I'm not agreeing with me.
It's okay, Bill.
Yeah.
In Newport and Albany, we made this part of our budget process. So maybe that's something that we think about doing that then. Then you won't have what you're just thinking about, Mr. Mayor. And if it comes to us and we run through our money, we've got it in the budget. We cut the checks July 1st and go forward. Something to think about, right?
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes around budget time, I'll probably have to come to council probably in February or something like that, because we usually started in February, March, we started the process. We got the applications out so we could get the information, and so the budget committee had something, and they usually came to the budget committee to do the presentations. So there's something we could add to the budget calendar for next year.
It'd be great to have Chris critique the concept, see what
What do you think?
what he thinks based upon his experience.
Yeah, that added exposure to the council and budget committee would be really nice.
Yeah.
But then would we still envision solicitation of applicants and presentations, or
It's
that's?
the same thing. We'd be agreeing, as part of your budget package, you would get their applications, and I would set aside, 2 hours. It's because it's probably taken us almost 2 hours to do this process. And we may have more people.
Yeah.
So, but
I mean,
it is a good process.
even if the timing is divine for people approaching us, just as this was, we're always going to have somebody.
Yes.
Okay. It's only the process.
And we're a social service, so yes, that's us.
And so, yeah, I could simply refer to the NAACP and say, we have this social service funding that will probably come out sometime in April, July.
Yeah.
But unless we change the process.
Can I ask the committee a question?
Sure.
So, the presentations tonight that, I assumed we were still having presentations, and so I invited everybody to come and have their 4 minutes
Oh,
in this
that's-
process. And I know that we made a lot of changes to this process through the applications and everything. Do you still want to do that? Is it beneficial to have these people come and make a presentation to you in addition to the materials that they submitted?
I go back and forth.
Yeah.
I think it's very helpful. I mean, this is my first time, but I think it's very helpful to be able to ask questions. In most of them, the presentation is already.
Right. There's big. I mean, I've pretty much in my mind kind of had figured out what I wanted, and what the presenter said didn't really sway me one way or the other. Some of it was like more heartthrob. Yeah, that sounds really good. I really get it. Love it. But on a practical sense, I don't think it made. I could have done this with just this.
And my concern is that some folks get asked fewer questions sometimes,
Right.
or they don't get asked the same questions, and some may be. I could imagine a situation where there may be someone who is really critical of somebody, and all of a sudden you get negative energy. I like the idea of everybody providing the exact same information, and then we make a decision based on that, kind of like a job application. Similar to what we've been trying to do in council, unfortunately, sections a little bit, kind of standardize it.
So can I just say that, we did have 2 new applicants this year in addition to the ones last year. So in this process, this meeting has taken just about 2 hours.
Right.
And that was with a 4-minute presentation time for each of them.
Good
Three.
questions.
Sorry,
And
3
questions
minutes.
though.
That was with a 3-minute presentation. I think I told them they were gonna have 4, so.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it took that long to,
Didn't
have
always
them.
get started.
Right.
They did ask
But
questions.
my point is,
They did.
get more applications.
Yeah.
Eventually, your meeting is going to become too cumbersome with
Yes.
presentations.
I think in the past 1 year, we didn't do presentation.
We did not do them during the pandemic.
Right.
Simply, it was off the applications.
And so those are my thoughts. I could go either way, but that's going to standardize.
It seems like it'd be more efficient to just do it on the basis of what's submitted.
What if you have a question?
Well,
You could treat it like an RFP.
Yeah, I
For
mean-
clarification.
if they didn't, and we have I hear you what you're saying. We,
We standardize, and when you start standardizing, you can start, they're not going to answer it quite the way you want it, so you will have the right to ask for clarifications. And we do that with RFPs. That's what I was thinking. When the mayor said we've standardized, I said, well, wow, yeah, it's just like an RFP. Because when I was reading it, it was like reading an RFP.
And even in an RFP, the finalist can present.
Oh, sure.
Answer questions.
Well, that's when you narrow it down and bring just the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, we don't narrow this.
I know you do. And this is a different animal.
yeah.
So I'm going to say this, I thought that most of them took advantage of the application form and provided pretty
Yes, they
complete
did.
applications.
They were
They
very
did.
good.
And there's some
I
good
have one
support.
additional question and business related.
Yes,
In terms of the city manager's review,
yes.
do we have an established process that we're planning to use this year? We haven't really talked about it, and it's probably time that we should be thinking about it.
That is true. We do have the format that we redid last year. I think it was generally well received.
So
But that's right, we don't really have a timetable to get it out to people. And
Let me pull the information up about that and we'll see what that timetable looks like. It seems to me like the goal was to give it in November.
yeah,
because we had enough time last year, we felt like everybody feel like it was good. I think.
if I recall right, yeah, I'd like to not have being in December. I think we had it in November, didn't we?
I think the goal was to get it done before December.
Yeah,
And get it done in November. Now, if we don't have to go through the process of recreating the wheel this year, then it's going to be significantly easier. In terms of.
We have to meet in the final Monday in November, that is the Monday after Thanksgiving, so that I will be absent. At least I'll be out of state.
Okay.
So if your
City
goal
council
is to hold the evaluation executive session through November, first meeting in November, I will look at the timetable and see how we need to talk this.
It seemed like it actually went pretty smoothly.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, if we had to do it on the first meeting of December, would that be a problem? We had to talk about the executive session. But then, if that's the case, then we have to have someone edit, draft, do something at the end of December, which also is big to that.
Yeah, the end of December.
So I would, yeah, if we could. Yeah.
Let me see what that looks like. I will email you and I'll chat with Chris about it and we'll get an email out to you and figure out if this committee needs to meet with that as a topic prior to it going out to confirm the timetable or what our next step is.
Just so they can be good to wrap it up at the first meeting in December.
It would be good. Yeah, and I think the format is fine, what we did before. So that should save time. Yeah. Is there, okay, and is there anything else that we should be, as a committee, be thinking about?
Well, that may be why you want to have it as an agenda topic, is just to refresh your memories, look it over, set the timetable.
Right.
For the next meeting.
If we have another meeting.
Yeah, that would probably be, either probably in September.
Right.
Late September.
Yep, sounds good. Right, anything else from anybody? Mr. Finance Director? Okay, with that, call the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Now I have a work meeting.
Oh, really?
I have a bunch of people that